I tell my patients, actually, it's a norm in Gujarat to have 5 kgs of ghee for one pregnancy. They'll finish 5 kgs of ghee.
Oh.
And second,
and you recommend it as well?
Recommend it, yeah, 100%. And plus head massage. Giving a proper massage to your head really calms you down.
Hello everybody. Welcome to Cafe Rainy Days. The theme of Cafe Rainy Days, for those of you who are new, is to chat to inspirational people and to introduce you to people who ordinary but extraordinary in the work that they do. And we also introduce you to special interest subjects. For this to carry on, please subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you have anybody interesting in mind, please share their contacts with me and I can do an episode with them. Today, we have one such inspirational guest based in Gujarat, Ahmedabad. I have great pleasure in introducing you to our guests today, Dr. Sonali Naik. Hi, Sonali.
Hello.
And her daughter, who helps her with her work, Anuradha Naik. Hi, Anuradha.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Most welcome, most welcome. So a quick introduction for Sonali. Sonali is a leading gynecologist in Ahmedabad, Gujarat. For the past 27 years, she's been practicing. She spearheads the gynecology and the obstetrics department in Adarsh Hospital. And she's successfully helped deliver 10,000 babies and also helped 100,000 women achieve reproductive success. Now, along with this, which is her profession, she's also established what is the Adarsh Women's Trust. And we'll soon hear of the story of how she went about setting up Adarsh Trust. So let's jump into the very first question. Sonali, tell us a bit about you, and then also go into what prompted Adarsh Women's project.
Thank you so much for that generous introduction. And thank you for having me on your channel. So I've been practicing as an obstetrician and a gynecologist since the last 27 years in Ahmedabad, Gujarat. The story behind Adarsh Women is such that I lost my husband, Dr. Deepak Naik, who was also an obstetrician in 2021 due to COVID. And during that time, I realized that while I came out of my grieving by joining my practice back again, a lot of women who had lost their partners during COVID were not in the same place. So they had gone into a shell and they were refusing to come out of it. So I talked about this problem with my daughter. She had just recently come back from New York to be with me during those crisis days. And she suggested that we should start a community program of women coming together and supporting each other. So we started with Adarsh Women. We called yoga experts, naturopaths, other gynecologists to guide the women. We conduct programs. And I found that together is the best way. Together you can really get over all your problems. Now it's a thriving community of women from all walks of life supporting each other.
I remember you call it people's therapy, which is such a great term. So Anuradha, tell us a bit about those crisis days when you came and you were the only standing person alone when mom, dad, your brother, everybody was ill. So let's begin by first tell us a bit about your dad.
Certainly, Dr. Deepak Naik was one of the most known figures here in Bhopal. He started the first and the oldest multi-speciality hospital, Adarsh Hospital in Bhopal in 1995. It was actually 2 days before my birthday on 5th March. It kind of, struck a chord with the community, and it grew to such a scale that we were compelled to move out here. And we saw Bhopal become one of the richest neighborhoods in our city. It's such a testament that, great schools, great hospitals, and great enterprises make a community, so prosperous. So he was a part of that. He was the leading gynecologist in that hospital. In the beginning days, I actually experienced my mom and my dad going on a scooter in the very darkest hour of the night, and during the rains, they took the help of tractors, because it was so wet. So they went on a tractor, they delivered the patients in the light of a kerosene lamp. So those were the starting days. But as Adarsh Hospital grew and thrived, and we moved out here, the support from the community had been amazing. I always respected him for this quality. He did everything possible for the patient. He would give mouth to mouth to a baby who would not breathe, and then go back to the hospital. He has delivered, 3 patients at a time. That was kind of, during his peak, that was the usual kind of traffic he got. He was extremely hardworking, extremely interested in the area of obstetrics, but he was probably the most caring doctor that the patients had experienced. And after his passing, there are so many areas in Bhopal and outside Bhopal who remember him as their hero. I have actually had the privilege to have his posthumous biography, a little bit about him, published in the betterindia.com. He was a man ahead of his times. He put Bhopal on the map. He put our family on the map. He was an amazing, amazing person. That's Dr. Deepak Naik for you.
Great. I remember, Sonali, when we were chatting, you said that you qualified as a doctor and then got married and came to Gujarat. And then you were talking about how you actually went back home to do your MD, and also how your husband was also your guru, because you assisted him. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So initially, when I married Dr. Deepak Naik, I was only a graduate, MBBS. And then after that, I had my daughter, Anuradha. I delivered her and then went back to do my MD in obstetrics and gynecology. So he was 6 years my senior and forever by my side. Actually, I was his PA in a way, personal assistant to Dr. Deepak Naik. But he was, as my daughter described him, he was a wonderful presence, a wonderful personality. And the important thing, I think, is to live on in the hearts of people that you serve. And I can see that evidence up till now, today itself. People remember how Dr. Deepak helped them. And there were so many times when patients didn't have money. He let go of all his fees. He did it for free. And so many instances, like there's a cultural thing in India that if it's a second daughter, she's unwelcome. So many times Dr. Deepak volunteered that adopt that child. Don't worry,
I'll pay the expenses for that second daughter.
And my mentor, my guide. So it's important really to have somebody like him in your life to inspire you.
So you, of course, had Anuradha, and then you went back home, as in to Maharashtra, Nagpur, to complete your doctorate. Again, women helping women, where your mom looked after Anuradha while you were studying.
Yes. Yeah, she was a professor in physiology. So she was at that time employed in Indira Gandhi Medical College. So she was working and she took care of my daughter all the time, all the 3 years that I went for my duties as a registrar in obstetrics and gynecology department of Government Medical College. So it was a tough time, but I think education should be given a priority. All the sacrifices that you do, maybe 2-3 years of your life, then this education will last you a lifetime. The second important figure was Sonali Naik, my mother-in-law. She was the one who was really, adamant that I should complete my MD. Because Dr. Deepak Naik was under the impression that since I was an MBBS and he was a practicing doctor already, it doesn't matter if I assist him, that should suffice. But my mother-in-law was strictly for this. My MD is because of her and my mother. So it's always women supporting women.
So jumping into more of the subject, gynecology and obstetrics, Obstetrics. For me, it's still a tongue twister.
It is tricky. That's why obstetrics.
That's a good one, Sonali. Yeah, good. Let's begin from seniority, and then let's go down to childhood. Old people, where you obviously you've lost your period many years ago. You're old and you have certain illnesses. Maybe it's your bones. Maybe what sort of advice do you have, especially for older women?
See, old women, basically, the basic advice actually is start to take care of your health during your adolescence. Mm-hmm. That kind of makes you grow old with grace. I've seen women who really do take care of their movement and their diet, their nutrition during their adolescent period, and then they are able to gracefully age. People who have neglected taking care of their health during the adolescent period or through their reproductive years are the ones who are literally going to suffer more. So during your geriatric age, it is common for us to suffer from heart-related diseases, from bone-related diseases. But basically, taking good care of your nutrition, good care of your movement, not exactly the exercise. Even if you go for a walk, that should suffice. Maybe you can have a physiotherapist at home, or maybe you can receive massage. So that all is really helpful. So
movement is key.
Movement is key, and good nutrition is key. People who have had calcium-rich, protein-rich diets throughout their reproductive years, throughout their adolescent years, are much, much far better off in their old age.
Stepping backwards, like I said, in the life of a woman. Let's talk about women who are losing their period or have lost their period or about to lose their period. So menopausal women. So let's talk about what are the terms, why is menopause there, and what sort of part is hormones or the lack of it playing in your life?
Every woman is born with an ovary which is full of certain number of follicles, say lakhs of follicles. Once she starts to have her periods, with each month, with each period, she'll lose one follicle. Okay, so over a period of time, the number of follicles go on decreasing, and menopause is the time when you completely lose all your follicles, and that's the time when you actually cease to have your periods, and that is the end of your reproductive history. Afterwards, you do not become pregnant. So it occurs around 40 to 55 years of age, during that age, and 5 to 10 years prior to the menopausal age is the perimenopausal age, when you have all sorts of symptoms of menopause, but the cessation of periods is yet to occur. And postmenopause is since the last 1 year you have not had your periods. That means you have reached your menopause. All the years after it is postmenopausal age. Estrogen and progesterone, these are the reproductive hormones which keep the woman in her reproductive age group. And later on, when estrogen and progesterone values decrease during menopause, that is the time when she'll undergo all the menopausal changes, like different changes, like bone health is affected, heart health is affected. Then mood swings might be there, panic attacks might be there. Then urinary incontinence is common. People suffer from perineal muscle weaknesses, and due to that, prolapse might occur. Uterine health itself suffers. So all of this is hormone dependent. So once we lose those hormones, we have these kind of symptoms.
Obviously, that's absolutely natural. But when do you see a doctor? What sort of issues should prompt you to go and see the doctor?
Irregularity in the periods. That is the first thing the patient will present you with. Or sometimes anxiety attacks, or crying spells, or losing your temper more often. That is also one of the reasons that patients come and see me. But usually it is period related. The periods have become irregular, or periods are heavy, or periods are scanty. So we go for a sonography to rule out any pathology. Then we go for a blood test to rule out whether all the hormones are normal. And during menopause, serum follicle stimulating hormone and serum luteinizing hormone, these two hormones will rise to a certain level. Once that level is reached, that means you have attained your menopause. So afterwards, the periods might be erratic, maybe 6 months or 1 year, you might have a period, and afterwards the period will stop. And after this menopausal age, you will not be able to conceive.
So I remember you mentioning sort of patients where they come with sort of really emotional symptoms. Give us examples, because you could just think that, oh, it doesn't matter, she's stressed, but it's not that. There's something else going on, isn't it?
Yeah. So I had one banker patient of mine. She used to count her money and start to cry. Some sort of a trigger.
Oh.
Counting money triggered her into crying spells. And then we treated her with phytoestrogens. There are molecules which are available in tablet form, which you can consume, which are similar to estrogen, but they are plant derived, like from soybean proteins. So this kind of helped her. A lot of times husbands bring their wives. She was, up till now, she was of such gentle nature, and suddenly what has come over her? She is literally running after me. So that kind of a complaint is usually seen. So,
but that's very wise, because the husband's picked up on it and knows that it's not, she's not going crazy, but there's something else going on. And so, what is your advice about hormone replacement therapy?
Usually during our practice, we have seen that lifestyle changes, nutrition changes, diet changes, and the phytoestrogens that we give are sufficient to relieve you of your symptoms. Very rarely you will see a patient who will need HRT. HRT is the rarely used modality. Usually exercises like walking, swimming, bicycling, whatever, and plus Kegel exercises. There are specific set of exercises called Kegel exercises, which are done for urinary incontinence. So you try and strengthen your perineal muscles by pulling them in and then releasing once every second for 10 seconds, and then again do repeated sets. So this strengthens these.
That's strengthening your muscles underneath.
Muscles. So these kind of exercises are important. Diet, basically, as I said, phytoestrogens, including soya in your diet, then flax seeds, then broccoli, spinach, raisins, currants, all dry fruits, all nuts and dry fruits. Basically, a calcium-rich and a protein-rich diet, and a heart protective diet. Basically, stay away from processed food and try and incorporate more fiber with raw vegetables, salads, fruits. So, and hydration is also important. A lot of time you are dehydrated and suddenly it might trigger some hot flash or some sort of a vasomotor symptom. So hydration is equally important. Vitamin D is important. So nowadays, exposure to sunlight might not be possible. So you take supplements of vitamin D. Nutrition is one, and second is lifestyle changes in which you inculcate hobbies in your daily routine. Nowadays, the trend is toward dancing or music, but reading and gardening can equally suffice. And getting in touch with your friends is most important. As I keep on saying, all of it begins in the adolescence. If you have your friends in adolescence and keep in touch with them throughout your life, I don't think menopause will be a problem. Women supporting women, I think that is a cure to everything that you're facing. If it is not able to solve your problem for you, it will at least give you courage to face that situation.
You also call this the phase when, so it's like a silver lining.
Yeah, because you're bereft of all your responsibilities. You have finished them. Your children have probably moved out. And you should ideally go back to college, develop that feeling that you're a college student. By yourself, you can develop your hobbies, what all that you have missed out doing all throughout your reproductive years. Now is the time to really go back with vengeance and do it. A lot of times I suggest salsa classes to my patients.
Right.
It really works. Dancing will definitely help you. Music will help. All sorts of hobbies. Getting in touch with your friends and giggling.
Laughter as a therapy. So moving on, the childbearing age, when you want children or you've had children, I think that's an important stage, especially for your profession.
Reproductive age group, the first and foremost advice any doctor will give is your biological clock is ticking. You must be aware of this fact. So as far as is possible, try and conceive children at a younger age. If it is not possible for certain cultures, it might not be. Think of freezing your eggs. there's a thing called freezing your eggs, so that once you're finished with your education, once you're finished with your, settling into a career, and then you start to think about having a child, it might not be possible for you to biologically conceive. If you've frozen your eggs, then there's a chance that you will be able to conceive. Even at 40, people do it. So you have to think things through. You have to think whether what is a priority, whether if it's having a child is a priority, then better to do it before 30. And if you're planning after 35, then better go for freezing your eggs. The second most important advice that I would give to reproductive women is that you must realize that after delivery, you're going to lose a substantial amount of proteins, calcium, iron from your body, almost around 5 to 7 kgs, like the baby, the amniotic fluid, the placenta, and the blood. So you must prepare for this phase by your proper nutrition, by taking proper supplements. And even after delivery, we must make sure that we take adequate rest and adequate nutrition to make up for the loss. Nowadays, there's a trend that yesterday I delivered and today I went to the party. That can't be the thing. In Indian cultures, there was a period of at least 5 weeks when the woman used to rest and take proper nutrition. High protein, high calcium nutrition was given to her daily. Massage was given so that she properly recovers through this phase. But I've seen people who skip this important part, then later on, their bone health deteriorates. Maybe there are patients who land into postpartum depression because of a lack of support system, lack of nutrition. Support system is important, and nutrition is very important.
So all these traditional methods that we had are very important, having a massage and being looked after and having a square meal, etc.
100%. It really makes a difference.
Including Dinka se ladu?
Including Dinka ladu, that's the biggest prescription. I tell my patients, actually, it's a norm in Gujarat to have 5 kgs of ghee for one pregnancy. They'll finish 5 kgs of ghee. And second,
and you recommend it as well?
Recommend it, yeah, 100%. And plus head massage. Giving a proper massage to your head really calms you down.
Because then it's helping you with if you're feeling slightly depressed as well.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Wow.
So Indian cultures, they are meant, they are arranged such that the woman is left alone. There's somebody to take care of her. So it really is important during those times not to be alone, ask for help.
Yeah, perfect. Great advice. And then now we'll go to the school children. You run workshops for younger women, girls. What does that entail, and what is your advice? About, because it's a difficult time. You've started to these hormones are playing in your body basically, and you want to explore sexuality. It's very natural to feel whatever a young girl or a young man is feeling. What's your advice to them?
See, we do conduct programs in schools. The age for menarche, that is the beginning of the periods, was around 17 previously. Nowadays, it has come down to 8, 9 years of age. So the girls are very, very young. They don't understand what's happening to them.
Yeah, because they're really just babies.
Yeah, absolutely. So we go to their schools and we conduct seminars for them to explain. Basically, we explain the anatomical and the physiological changes that are occurring. Then we also teach them about conception and contraception, a cancer cervix vaccine, and basically nutrition advice, all the lifestyle changes that they have to follow. So I think it is important during this period to really take part in different activities which will actually transmute the sexual urges that these girls have.
Oh, I see. Okay, so you're saying actually you can sort of divert that into other passions.
Yeah, 100%, because 8, 9, and 10 is the time nowadays that menarche is occurring. So during that time, you are absolutely not ready. So basically, go for some dancing or some singing or any kind of activities, music and literature, reading, any sort of sports. So all of this will help you into, managing the hormonal chaos.
And for slightly older girls as well, if they may be sexually active, what's the advice you give them?
Mhm. There's one thing that girls should learn early on is our female reproductive system is designed such that any infection which is introduced into the vagina has a potential to reach inside the abdominal cavity and cause havoc there. So you must practice safe sex. You must be sure that your partner is a safe partner, because once the infection lodges in, you might land into chronic pelvic diseases, chronic pelvic infections, which might lead to infertility and so many problems later on. So better be safe than sorry. So this is one thing that I would really want young girls to understand, because this infection which is introduced into the vagina directly goes into the pelvic region. It can cause adhesions. It can cause a lot of difficult times later on.
Great. I'm going to ask Anuradha a question. You've got a treasure of experience sitting beside you. And you were saying how your mum or even your dad would just look at a patient walk in and they would straight away, tell what's wrong. Tell us the experience that you were telling me the last time.
For sure. Yeah, somebody in our family, very close to us, they wanted to conceive again after having their first baby. And my mother and her father were, following her case. And my mother, just looking at her face, she really thought that she had a low blood pressure. And low blood pressure, right?
Yeah. And actually, we went through her reports as well, and because we are experienced, Indian doctors basically have a treasure of experience, so they can make out easily and better. So we could make out that she's suffering from a ectopic pregnancy. So we suggested that she should get admitted to the hospital, but because she was in America and maybe the doctors were not able to diagnose her case, they were refusing her admission into the hospital. But because we forced her, nick of the time she reached the hospital, she got operated and was saved. Otherwise, she would have lost her life.
Yeah, an ectopic pregnancy is a fatal one. So the fact that they were just able to look at her face, look at her condition, and just diagnose what is
that
going on.
Remotely, because she was in America.
Yeah. Even my mother, remotely, she can just diagnose my hemoglobin levels. She really can. It's like Indian doctors have they are trained in government hospitals, so they have seen plenty of patients before they start formally practicing.
One thing I can tell, that when you immerse yourself so much in your practice, there are days when I have a premonition that XYZ baby, XYZ mother is having problem with the baby's movement.
Wow.
And within 1 hour, that lady will present with fetal distress.
My goodness.
Kind of tuning we have with our babies.
I would say it's a proper union of left and right side brain hemispheres, isn't it? Your intuition coming together with your knowledge. Now that we are sort of very conveniently into the field of intuition, other than Adarsh women, another thing that you do is you do Pothi, which is like old literature for Gajanan Maharaj, and you do the Pothi in various languages on YouTube. Tell us a bit about that. And did that start after all these troubles as well? Or?
Yeah, it did. When my husband passed away in 2021, I was myself admitted in the ward. I was on oxygen. My son was in intensive care unit. He was also not well. So when I realized that my husband has passed away and there was nobody to turn to, because of the corona guidelines, nobody is allowed. And during the quarantine days, nobody is allowed to meet you. So all these days when I was all alone, I kept on listening to Sumati Tai Bapat's Mukhodgat Parayan. That is a revision of the Pothi on YouTube. And throughout those days, it helped me literally bring myself back from the crisis. And then afterwards, Gajanan Maharaj himself gave me an inspiration that I should do my own Zoom meetings and I should conduct parayans on them. So I started doing them in Marathi, in Gujarati, in Hindi and English. And now I'm translating his Pothi into Konkani parayans as well. The hope is that his message spreads to as many people as possible. And if in case somebody like me is in that need of the message, they'll get it.
And I know you really have a very, very strong faith in Gajanan Maharaj. And you've said that, with every delivery or throughout the practice, you always feel that there's that guiding force there. Of course, tell us a bit about that, but also about your experience a spiritual experience that you've had with Gajanan Maharaj.
Yeah.
And also tell us a bit about Gajanan Maharaj, because not really everybody would know about Gajanan Maharaj.
So Gajanan Maharaj is a saint. Basically, his temple is in Shegaon, Maharashtra, near to Akola. As small children, our parents used to take us to the temple every year. And throughout our childhood, we have seen our parents turn to Gajanan Maharaj in times of distress. My mother, she used to do Parayan, the Pothi, revisions of the Gajanan Vijay Granth. That is a book containing the stories of all the mystical experiences that people had with Gajanan Maharaj. So he has been permanently an experience of as a rock solid faith for us. So my experience with Gajanan Maharaj that I want to share with you was 17th of October this year, 2022. And
you remember the date as well.
Yeah, because I intensely wanted to have his darshan. And I was driving to my hospital. It was in the evening. So as I parked my car, an old man came near me and he asked for money. He said in Gujarati, "Mare roti khavi che, mane paisa apo." Meaning, give me money, I want to eat. So I gave him some money. And again he said, "Give me some more." So it suddenly struck me, there's a story in our Gajanan Vijay Granth in which Gajanan Maharaj comes and meets somebody and says, "I want some more money." So I just looked up and I saw his divine eyes. He was 6 feet tall and absolutely vital and divine presence. Like there was no missing the fact that he is himself Gajanan Maharaj. Then I gave him the money. He blessed me, "Be prosperous always. Taru khub bhalu thai." And then he suddenly walked away fast and disappeared into the crowd. But I was still doubtful because, as usual, the human mind keeps on coming up with all the reasons that he's not Gajanan Maharaj. Then in the morning, when I was praying near his photograph, there was a sudden, I could experience heavenly fragrance. It made this clear that he himself had come to me.
That was his way of saying, yes, it was me.
I am eternally grateful.
Wow. The very last question that I'd like to ask you is, during your so many years of practice, you would have had so many experiences. Give us a couple of experiences that you've treasured, that have stayed with you.
Our professional successes have been many. There was a time when we removed a football-shaped ovarian tumor from a woman's...
the size of a football?
Size of a football, yes. There was a time when we carried a vesicular mole pregnancy with the baby to term. Actually, vesicular mole pregnancy is dangerous to carry to term, but we did it. There were so many instances when we brought back the patient and the baby from the brink. But the special experience that I would like to share with my viewers is the internal victories that I have had. I actually, when Anuradha was born and she was 8 years old, we were trying to plan for a second baby. And I used to visualize that for 6 months, I visualized that a baby is in my arms and I'm playing with the baby. And I used to put kajal mark on his right cheek as a mark of love. And
this is all visualizing.
But it is a deep kind of visualizing. Like literally, I used to cry every day because I could feel the baby in my arms. So for 6 months, I visualized. Later on, I conceived. And when my son was born, I was wonderstruck that he had this black mark on his right cheek.
Oh.
Just as I imagined, he has turned out to be a brilliant student. He stood 7th amongst 17 lakh students in pre-medical test. And he's now studying in AIMS Delhi, which is the topmost institute of the country. And there also he's a topper.
Oh, wow. Wow. And so I remember, Anuradha, you saying something similar that, yes, my mom was visualizing and hoping for, a baby, but you had your own thing going on. Tell us about your experience as well.
For sure. So my cousin brother actually had gotten born in 2000 or 2001. I saw my cousin sister playing with her brother, and I wanted a similar experience. So my mother said, if you really want a younger brother, go to the temple and ask. So the temple that she described in Shega, my father took me on a road trip with my grandmother, and I remember distinctly sleeping on the foot of the car. It was quite miserable. The road was really tough to get there, but he took me to the temple. He said, okay, this is the little opening where every devotee goes and he asks for anything he wants, and he's granted that wish. So as a 7 or 8 year old girl, I was just like, I've come this far, I'm just gonna go for it. And when Ajinkya was born, I remember I couldn't believe it. Like they they announced that Ajinkya is here, and I just remember jumping out with joy. I still remember it as if it was yesterday. Since then, my faith in Gajanan Maharaj has only grown stronger, and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to God for Ajinkya.
So similar to your son's experience that you manifested your son through visualization. You've obviously, you believe in this method, and have you had more experiences? Because this is just such a fascinating field, and also I've said this to you in the past, just that coming together of spirituality and your Western medical knowledge, because not many doctors who have been trained in the Western medical field would be open to talk about it. Although they may have experiences, they're not open to that other extra dimension that can't be proved. So have you had any other experiences?
Yeah, definitely. So now I think I've progressed from visualizing to receiving the visions. I now think that every thought that you think is an affirmation. Every vision that you have is a visualization. So there actually is no demarcation. Once you progress to a certain point, you realize that the universe wants to talk to you, and you really are in a deep meditative state, and you really receive those visions. So there are two examples which I can narrate. The first one being, after my husband passed away, I needed a ultrasonography registration redone. And for that, they needed a mark sheet, my final MBBS mark sheet, which was nowhere to be found, unfortunately. But then I asked the universe to send me some kind of a signal. And in my dream, I found out one key of a Godrej cupboard. And then I found out that key belonged to my mother's Godrej cupboard. I went to her place. I opened the cupboard, and lo and behold, the mark sheet was there.
And you could actually, when you saw the key, you could actually see the key and recognize it.
Recognize it, yes. And the second experience is, I recently had to go to my native place for a property deal, and the original papers we were not able to find. So I had this vision of the original papers in a safe, kept in the same home that we wanted to sell. And I sent somebody to look for the documents, and he found it inside a safe. Then we were able to retrieve those documents.
So you had the vision of this cupboard where the documents are?
I had the vision of the house itself. So there was only one place inside the house where the documents
could have been. Right. And so from here, you could send somebody to the exact place, and they found the documents there.
Retrieve those documents. So it is always, as I always keep on telling my patients also, faith has really the power to move mountains.
What are your future hopes for Adarsh women, Sonali?
Hopefully it grows up into a global community of really Adarsh women. Adarsh means the correct one. So the Adarsh women means the correct ones, the correct attitude, the correct support system for women. And hopefully whenever a woman is in need, she really has an Adarsh woman by her side, support her. That's my dream.
Yeah. You're happy for people to join your WhatsApp group, is that?
Yeah. We will provide a link. She has always had this vision of a supportive community of women, and I was so happy to use my technical skills to make that happen. In the form of WhatsApp group, or events and live and recordings on YouTube. So yeah, we'd be happy to give you that link.
I'll share a link. When you sort of brought these women together for Adarsh women, what were their, what sort of issues that did they come with? Or what sort of help are you able to really give them where they feel that support,
Yeah. So basically, this is a group of women who came together for want of warmth. Everybody, if you see today's hectic lifestyles, we either don't have family members around us, or maybe we are not in touch with friends. So the woman is actually all alone on her own. So eventually the woman wants some kind of a place, some kind of a place of warmth. So I think that is what we provide. Even talking to each other is therapy. If you ask for help, there is so much help available. It really is, 100 hands will come towards you if you just ask for one finger.
So skipping back to your experience, Sonali, of when you were really visualizing your son and you almost in many ways manifested him, is that a technique that you also recommend to your patients?
There are women who have been receptive, and I have passed this technique on to them, and they have had spectacular results. So I can vouch for it. It works.
Mm-hmm. So it depends on the patient if the person's receptive. Lovely. Hopefully your project with the Kokri Parayan really hits off soon and is a success. And of course, Adarsh Women is already a success. This has been such a wonderful conversation, Sonali and Anuradha. But as a very, very last advice to anybody, what is your advice?
So I would say 3 pillars. The first one is self-development or self-growth. You should be aware of what is it that you want, and you should go after it. Whatever it is that makes you happy. Like reading is my hobby. I remember after delivering patient at 12 o'clock in the night, I used to come back home, and 3 o'clock I was sitting by some light reading. Second one is service. Whatever trouble you are in, there are people who are in more trouble than you are. So go find out somebody and help. It will help lessen your trouble too. And the third one is spirituality. I really deeply believe that throughout your life, there has to be some development of a connection with the divine, be it in some sort of a book or a deity or a guru or a mentor or a teacher. But if you keep on being connected to that source, you will never be alone. In your time of need, the help will manifest.
Thank you so much, Sonali and Anuradha. It was absolute pleasure talking to you. Okay, bye. Bye. Thanks, Anuradha. Bye, Sonali.